You can do it, anything at all. You'll fight for what you believe. You'll fight for what you need. You're ready, you are.
Hello and welcome to our Queen City News Pride special. I'm Derek Dellinger.
And I'm Shakira Speaks. For the next half hour, we will introduce you to a rainbow of voices in our community celebrating love and liberation. But the journey to securing gay rights has not been an easy one, and the battle for equality is far from over.
The raid and rebellion of Stonewall in New York City sparked the modern gay rights movement. The June 1969 uprising became the catalyst for LGBTQ+ activism.
And led to the annual observance of Pride Month across the nation, including celebrations in cities like the Queen City. Today, same-sex marriage is now largely accepted in society, but a decade ago, it was unthinkable.
Yeah, October will mark 10 years since same-sex marriage became legal in North Carolina. We are looking back at that moment and what it's meant for so many still to this day. 10 years ago, things were a lot different at the Buncombe County Register of Deeds office in Asheville. It was in another building during a different era in North Carolina when even the thought of same-sex marriage was something that would strike fear in some.
This is a slippery slope that we're heading down, and we just need to know what could very well face us all in the very near future.
But for those who issued marriage licenses and couldn't do it for their own friends and family, it was heartbreaking.
It was incredibly sad, turning down friends and family coming in requesting marriage licenses to be treated equal.
One thing that hasn't changed in that time is Drew Reisinger. He's the Register of Deeds then and now in Buncombe County. The pictures that line the hallways for Pride Month at his office show the uncertainty of a day, October 10th, 2014, which became historic. But to get to that point, it took a lot of work. In the months, weeks, and years leading up to that day, there were referendums like Amendment 1, which voters approved, saying marriage was between a man and a woman. There were also lawsuits, rallies on both sides.
You know, God created Adam and Eve. He did not create Adam and Steve. And he said, go out and replenish the earth. And there's no way that two men can replenish the earth or two women.
Minorities are rights are being trampled on, then the courts need to settle that out, and that's what's happened here.
But it was ultimately a decision that came down from Virginia that set the stage for what happened on that October day in 2014. A couple in Virginia filed suit against the state's ban on same-sex marriage. The ban was ultimately ruled unconstitutional by a district court of appeals, which meant North Carolina's own ban was in jeopardy. That takes us to that day in the Buncombe County Register of Deeds office.
You've got so many people in a room who've been waiting for the announcement that they might be recognized and treated equally under the law. So many of the couples who came to us weren't young couples. So many of the activists were these older couples who'd been together for 40, 50 years.
And then it happened.
To see if there will be a ruling.
Judge Cockburn has signed an order.
It was a Friday after 5. Reisinger and the Register of Deeds in Wake County kept the offices open for people to file for a marriage license. Megan Burke was there that day and helped fight in the courts for same-sex marriage. In that instant, things became so simple for so many.
So before marriage equality, lawyers had to get really creative on how to kind of grab what rights you could and cobble things together to protect your clients. Once marriage equality was recognized, it was really simple. We could do step-parent adoptions.
For Reisinger, an ally, he knows how big of a deal this was, and still is.
It will still always be the greatest moment of my life, being able to tell a room full of activists and incredible humans that same-sex couples will be allowed to get married.
Derek, you were actually in Asheville that day.
Yes, I was, and there were marriages happening on the courthouse steps, and you got to see people who have been together for years embrace and cry over the ability to finally have everything legalized and in their estimation, being treated equally under the law.
And for the couples that married that day, it meant so much to them to have that recognition in North Carolina.
By the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, I now pronounce you married.
I didn't think that would happen in my lifetime. I thought it would happen one day, but not in my lifetime, and certainly not before I was 60 years old.
Donna Reed and Paula Garrett were married long before the courts handed down the ruling to legalize their union. They opted for a commitment ceremony in 2005 and were legally married in New York when it became legal there. But they wanted a legal recognition in North Carolina. And for them, yes, it was about love, but it was also about security and the rights married couples have.
I didn't want anybody to think of our commitment to each other is any less than theirs if they were in a hetero marriage. But at the time, the most important part for me was protecting our kid. It wasn't just that she needed, if something happened to me, she needed my Social Security, but she would need it to raise him.
So to have this one simple piece of paper that solved it all is sort of mind-blowing in what it achieved.
Megan Burke is now the executive director of the National Women's Soccer League Players Association. But 10 years ago, she was the attorney for the Campaign for Southern Equality.
I remember the arguments that were advanced by those who opposed marriage equality. And a lot of it was, frankly, kind of some hysteria. Like, you know, civilization could collapse if gay people could marry. All these predictions about what could happen. And you know what changed? More people got married and made families. What's not to like about that?
Marriage forms are no longer gender specific since the legalization of same-sex marriage in North Carolina, and same-sex couples continue to redefine what was once considered traditional for married couples.
I'd love to think it's settled law, but after Roe, I don't know if there's such a thing as settled law.
It's almost kind of quaint to think about marriage equality at this point, 10 years in, because I think the fights now are very different and very, very serious. I think life-threatening, frankly.
While same-sex marriage is legal, the fight is far from over. Members of the LGBTQ+ community in the Carolinas are now shifting their focus to the rights of trans people.
The gays getting married with a boogeyman, you know, bathrooms became the boogeyman, trans kids accessing healthcare became the boogeyman, and the secret is there is no boogeyman. There just isn't. They're just people trying to live their lives.
Despite the seriousness of the future, there is reflection on the past and what has brought everyone to this point. Come October 10, 2024, Buncombe County Register of Deeds Drew Reisinger told us what he wants to see to commemorate that day.
A lot of people got married very quickly in fear that it was going to be taken away from them. A lot of people made very quick decisions of, we've got this right, let's do it. And they didn't have time to fully plan out marriage ceremonies. I think the 10th anniversary should be a time that we should all take stock of these relationships and celebrate them.
Supporters have quoted Martin Luther King Jr. in saying, "No one is free until we are all free." It's something that they are taking to the courts. Decisions on cases involving trans rights are making their way through the legal system right now, and we will let you know what happens with those cases. But Shakira, the battle over LGBTQ+ rights is far from over.
Yeah, that's right, Derek. 2 years ago, lawmakers in Florida captivated and divided the nation after passing its controversial so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Now, several states, including North Carolina, followed in Florida's footsteps, passing their own versions of the law. It restricts how gender identity and sexual orientation are taught and addressed in public schools, but North Carolina leaders took it a step further by adding a provision that requires teachers and administrators to inform parents if their child changes pronouns. Supporters say it reaffirms a parent's right to know what is happening in school, but critics say it unfairly targets vulnerable populations like the LGBTQ+ students.
I am concerned about the harm that it might cause to students and the extra burden that it places upon our teachers.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools was one of the first districts in the state to amend its policies to align with the bill. Expecting an extra special delivery.
Two women doing IVF together, most people think like, oh gosh, you guys are gonna kill each other.
The Charlotte couple celebrating something they've dreamed of, but were never sure could happen.
Stick with us. Our Queen City News Pride Special continues after the break.
I know you can do it, anything at all. You'll fight for what you.
The fight over fertility, equality, and reproductive health heightens as lawmakers draw more battle lines. Earlier this month, Senate Republicans blocked a bill that would guarantee access to in vitro fertilization nationwide.
The legislation sought to make the treatment more affordable by mandating insurance coverage. IVF is a procedure that a growing number of same-sex couples turn to help grow their family, including one Charlotte area couple.
And as Queen City News anchor Annie Satowski shows us, the couple is counting down the weeks until a very special delivery.
Cute little North Carolina sweater because, you know, that's our stuff.
It's hard not to feel an overwhelming sense of wonder and joy as Lindsay sifts through piles of tiny newborn clothes.
This is from your sister, right?
She's due this fall.
October 13th.
It'll be an especially lucky day because that baby will actually be the family's second.
Laura, when are you due?
August 22nd.
Yep, 2 babies, 2 months apart.
Oh my God, look at these.
They're like twins, not twins. I mean, yeah, really close in age, probably gonna be in the same grade together.
It's the kind of family Lindsay and her wife Laura have been dreaming of.
I think we were both gonna start a family, even if we hadn't met each other.
The two were married in October 2022 and had their first fertility consultation the very next month.
2 women doing IVF together. Most people think like, oh gosh, you guys are gonna kill each other.
Their doctors at Reproductive Specialists of the Carolinas agree this is not something they typically see.
It's actually the first time that it's happened in my career that I've actually literally had a couple that wanted to come in and really wanted to do it at a similar time.
Dr. Matrika Johnson, the medical director and founder of RSC, says while she sees same-sex couples often, they tend to time things differently.
Usually they think about doing it in kind of taking turns. Like usually one will get pregnant and then another one will get pregnant.
But if you ask Lindsay and Laura, this is exactly how their story is supposed to unfold.
It's kind of been an adventure from the beginning.
This particular adventure started with lots of shots, pills, and doctor's visits.
I had a whole IVF binder, basically, for me and for her by the time we got going. The initial amount of shots was overwhelming, and the schedule of them, but you get a system down.
And the system worked.
Baby number 1 just got moved over. They're still here all in order to baby number 2.
Laura was successful with her first egg retrieval and embryo transfer in December, and Lindsay's second retrieval and transfer stuck in January, both using the same sperm donor.
Hers was super positive. I mean, this was 5 days after the transfer, and it's bam in your face. It wasn't you have to struggle to see the line.
Since that first pregnancy test, they've helped each other through the first trimester.
Super, super nauseous, just all day long.
Chosen a nursery theme.
This one's my favorite, I think.
And sort of figured out how their delivery days will work.
Well, we joke all the time about when she's in labor, I'm gonna be a house, so I'm just gonna be able to be here, squeeze my finger, good job. And then vice versa. I mean, she's gonna be exhausted.
But more importantly, they know the hopes and dreams they have for their babies.
I just hope that they're happy and healthy and, feel loved every day.
They also hope 2 tiny people can help others understand that each family is unique. It's part of why they loved working with RSC.
I've just had patients that have come to me and have just said, well, the last place I was at, the doctor, once they met us, they wouldn't treat us. And to me, that's not fair.
Lindsay and Laura know people will likely have questions, but it's why they want to share their journey out in the open.
When I was working in the school system, I didn't tell anyone I was gay for years. I mean, really stayed in the closet, so I hid it for a long time. And I thought to myself, all those years as a high school teacher, how many students I feel like I did an injustice to because they were gay and they didn't have a role model, and they really deserved one.
Annie Satowski.
Can't you see a little sweaty baby in this over the summer?
Queen City News.
I've always had to live my life like somebody's watching, and now they are.
If you've been on TikTok or really any other social media app, you may know who Dakota Wright is. His mix of real-life tales and trips to restaurants have garnered millions of views.
Yeah, but there is more than meets the eye. How he's pushing the boundaries in the industry and making a difference in the community.
I know you can do it, anything at all.
If you've been on TikTok or any other social media apps, you may know who Dakota Wright is. He's an influencer whose videos have gotten millions of views.
But what you may not know is that Wright and his husband live here in the Charlotte area.
Hey, let's go to dinner. Jackson and I are going to the beach each. Let's go get a wave.
If you're not familiar with him now, there's a good chance you know someone who is. And if it's not the food runs.
And my angel food cake is looking fire. Tell me about your outfit, Pookie.
It's the time Dakota Wright and his husband Jackson spend showing their normal lives and getting a lot of views for it. Normal for them has changed a lot in the last few years, though.
I've always had to live my life like somebody's watching. And now they are.
The two live just north of Charlotte, and in many ways have become, for a lot of straight people and those not from North Carolina, 2 of the faces for being gay in the South. Neither sought out fame, it just kind of happened. But before we get to that...
This is the earliest. So that was in 2019. That was our engagement photo shoot.
There's another important story to tell you, how Dakota and Jackson met. Both are from Virginia with different backgrounds, but both were living in the Triad when it became love at first sight.
I lived in Winston-Salem with my parents. He lived in Greensboro. We met that way at just a nightclub in Greensboro.
Dakota was doing real estate and Jackson was and still is a nurse practitioner. They got engaged on a Bravo after show.
I just got the idea. I messaged Andy Cohen on Instagram and I said, hey, we're coming. Can we get tickets to the show? And is it possible maybe I propose in the studio?
But it wasn't until 2021 when that all kind of came together. It was a TikTok trend of showing food orders that got really popular in a very short amount of time.
We filmed it. I didn't edit it at all. I posted it. Didn't think anything of it.
That's the one from Cookout, right?
That was the first one. I didn't think anything of it. And then, what was that, like 7 p.m.? Mm-hmm. We're upstairs watching TV at like 11 and my phone is just going bananas.
White cheddar cheese bites and a side of Cajun fries.
Hey, it's Jackson. I got a cookout tray with a jumbo hamburger.
This video, by the way, to date has over 2 million views.
What do you think it was about that first video that kind of made it?
Honey, I don't know.
But it is something that has grown and grown and grown. Dakota and Jackson both can't go out these days, even in Charlotte, without being recognized. Beyond the success, there's more behind it. Dakota is upfront about his mental health and the eating disorders he's had over the course of his life. Jackson, who has a following of his own,
when I see the light come on, that's when I perform, I guess you could say.
Has seen the power of social media and its positive effect.
I've been able to be a role model for a lot of kids with cleft lips.
Oh, yeah.
When I was younger, we didn't have anybody.
On the negative side, they say they do get messages from those who insult them. But in large part, a lot of the positive messages are coming from straight people who see gay couples in a new light, or have a kid, or who are that kid seeking acceptance of who they are. They won't deny the success that's come with that. Brand deals, Hollywood adventures, collaborations with other celebrities, but they still keep it as close to home as they can. There are no plans to move, but there is talk about the future.
I do want kids. I know that has nothing to do with social media, but and I will not be one of the parents that put their children on social media for content. I'll make that known right now.
Until then,
Queen Legend, Slave, Boots the House Down, Mama Versace, work.
Expect some crass, a little sass, and a whole lot of heart. Vanishing venues of queer sanctuaries. More and more third spaces dedicated to the LGBTQ+ community are disappearing.
How one local store is opening their door to living life out in the open. We'll be right back. There's a noticeable decline in public places nationwide that bring people together in the community outside of their home or work.
Those gathering spots are called third spaces, but a shortage in these locations could have a negative impact on society and mental health.
I spoke to one Rock Hill business owner about her mission to continue to be a safe space for all.
Hey y'all, welcome in.
The Mercantile is more than what meets the eye.
Look around, let us know if we can help you with anything. If you need a mimosa or you want to make some candles or soap, we'll do it all, okay?
The coffee, decor, and clothing just scratches the surface of what this business has to offer to Rock Hill. For the LGBTQ+ community, it's also a third place that allows members to unwind, let their hair down, and be themselves. Something co-owner Brittany Kelly says was her mission all along.
We want you to feel like you know us when you walk in here. We want you to feel safe, that you can be who you are.
Mental health counselor Heather Tidwell says third spaces are locations that facilitate social interaction outside of the people you live or work with. They provide a sense of security, safety, and acceptance.
A third place can be a porch stoop. A third place can be at a gym. It can be in a cul-de-sac. It can be at a local beach spot. Third place can be as formal as a church, as a library. They can really be anywhere where we feel safe and we could be our authentic selves.
HonorSociety.org says the increase in remote work, social media, and the exponential cost of living has made it, quote, more difficult for businesses to afford rent in prime locations, leading to a decline in public gathering spaces, end quote. Experts say without these communal areas, people are more likely to feel socially isolated, leading to depression and anxiety.
I've heard so many members of the LGBTQIA community share with me that they really got to know themselves and who they were and what they identified was, and the fact that it was okay because they felt acknowledged, heard, and seen, and it wasn't side eye, it was, I see you.
Back at the Mercantile store and cafe, Kelly says that's exactly what she wanted for those in the LGBTQ plus community. It's just the tip of the iceberg for the business. Kelly and her staff have hosted the Rock Hill Pride event for the last 4 years, growing from 500 people the first year to this year expecting about 20,000 people. Nearly 100 small businesses signed up to help organize.
I grew up in a very conservative home where it was, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about those things, but we're doing the complete opposite. We're talking about it, and I think that's what helps, and it hasn't hurt our business at all. And then baby steps, maybe with our power of all the small businesses, we can, make a difference within the municipality. Isn't it beautiful?
Kelly identifies as a cisgendered woman, or a woman who identifies with the sex she was assigned at birth. She and her husband already had friends in the LGBT community, but their allyship intensified when their 5-year-old daughter questioned her gender identity.
It was very personal for us to make sure she had a safe space to grow up in. But then you just start to meet people, you start to meet the community and the struggles throughout the community, and that's when it becomes so important to realize, like, okay, it's going to take everybody to step up, and if not you, who?
We want to thank you for joining us to honor the diverse group of trailblazers in our community.
And we hope you can continue to share their stories, open up conversations in your community, and spark change for future generations. I'm Derek Dellinger.
And I'm Shakira Speaks. From all of us here at Queen City News, happy Pride Month.